Welcome to the GGB Supplier Showcase. I'm Frank Legato, editor of Global Gaming Business Magazine. Today we are focusing on Bluberi Gaming, and our guest is Mike Brennan, who is Chief Product Officer for Bluberi. Thanks for being with us today, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for your support and appreciate the time, Frank.
Okay, now Bluberi's had quite a year and a half here turnaround. You picked up your first two awards at the Eilers Slot Awards, including Most Improved Supplier and Top Performing Core Game from an emerging supplier. How have you achieved the turnover? What's been different for Bluberi?
Yeah, it's been an amazing 18 months, but for Bluberi, it's been an amazing 30 years. So we've been around almost 3 decades, and part of it is that mix of the group that's been here that long, based mostly out of the province of Quebec, as I think we've talked about in avenues like this before. And so part of the reason we're able to do this is we have this great mix of culture of this existing kind of powerhouse that became, really good technical experts, and we're just really good at making games, and kind of had some ups and downs over the years, and then pairing them with some brand new folks with the shared, and unique experiences. So what I think that did is able for us to kind of take kind of like a weapon. We had a weapon in Quebec and kind of maybe point it in a slightly better direction, right? Maybe it wasn't pointing in the right direction. Maybe they weren't accounting for wind, in the environment that we're in, and kind of bringing together has been really neat, because what I think has helped us do as well is avoid like a monoculture, right? So we've got people from vast experiences, different cultures, different, past companies that they've worked with. And so instead of just going to what we know, we're continually kind of challenging each other and giving ourselves like new perspectives as we kind of work with new people, as opposed to kind of working with the same group that we always work with. So really is the people is the first avenue. And like I said, all the credit is deserved from the team that's been here the longest. And I think we've just been able to work together on kind of pointing in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now the game you won for was Devil's Lock. How do you follow up on a game like that?
Yeah, I think first to kind of back on how we created Devil's Lock was really bringing a bit of mix of process with creativity. So Devil's Lock is kind of an embodiment of that. Is where it's such a great creative game with a lot of elements that you can just see came from the love of the team that worked on it. We also put it through a bit of a process where we brought in player focus groups, we brought in peer reviews, we created some common language, and we try to figure out how many games we needed. And so part of the reason we were able to create Devil's Lock is we slowed down and we focused on really quality over quantity, because the big question we talk about in the industry is how many games do you need, right? And there's a lot of metrics you can look at, and we have a little model, but it's more about how many good games do you need, right? You need games to fill as you get bigger and bigger, but not a lot of us remember those 1.25 games, right? We all remember the games that get off, above a certain metric. So, with Devil's Lock, the success we had, I think, surprised us all. I mean, just to look at how unprecedented that was. You look at, kind of what its performance metrics were and some of the kind of third-party accolades it got. I mean, it's something that not in the core space, no one outside of the big three had done for the last 5 years when we look back. So I mean, it was faster and quicker and harder and probably bigger than a lot of us expected, and probably the industry expected. And so what that's done is now it's almost made it so we know it's possible. One of our critical creative leads here said it to me the other day. It's like, hey, I wasn't sure we could get to these heights. I think Bluberi could make the #1 core game, right? When you think about how many obstacles there are in this business, and to hit it, it creates this feeling like, wow, we can do it, and we're obsessed with like doing it again. So the key is to get there, and then how do we follow up? So beat around the bush way of answering your second question is the first step is to understand why was Devil's Lock successful. And we thought we were onto something here because the character and the immersion was so great. So we actually started thinking of a sequel before we even released the game, because we want to create some IP as we grow. And then I talk about this light process we put in. For every game we release, we do a first play analysis. And for most games, we try to do some player intercepts. So we actually spent time trying to figure out, why Devil's Lock was successful. I think a lot of us, when a game maybe is below expectations, we do a triage and try to figure out what went wrong. So in this case, we were like, hey, what went right? And so we have a lot of data behind that. But the funniest thing is this business sometimes is a lot more simple, maybe than we think at times. And what came across from talking to players, especially in these intercepts, is doubles lock was fun. And so I think that little three-letter word stuck with us because, slot games is about winning, right? And the last 5 years, you've seen an influx of games where it's about, how do I get on this path to winning? How do I get a legendary win? Some of the games that were developed in Australia, New Zealand came over and dominated. And so it's I think we might have lost a little bit of the fun. And so it was great to hear players talk about fun. And what does fun mean? Well, that's for us to interpret. But that could be the presentation. That could be the sounds, the art, how it all comes together. I think it's also about just the fact that we've kind of developed the math of the game is that the majority of players are going to have a good experience, especially when they go into the free spins, where we're not really saving this legendary win for this one lucky player. We're trying to give almost every player a decent run and a chance at winning, and not over teasing hopefully their chance at winning. So that's what we have in doubles lock. And then with Xing Fu, we're going to talk about is we develop on development tracks. So we kind of have a portfolio mix to look at our kind of risk profile, but we also go on tracks. And so doubles lock is behind me, and so is Xing Fu. And you might notice, they're on independent reels, 50 independent reels, and they're cash on reels. And so, we have doubles lock, here, and then the next game in the track was this game Xing Fu 888 that we're going to talk about, and that's why we think we're going to be able to follow up, hopefully, with Xing Fu, as it's on the same development track. And then we're just confident, and cautious and humble on our approach to our portfolio in order to try to, create games in the same mold, in the same, way that the magic came together for doubles lock.
Now, without getting into too many details, is it? It looks like it's a cash on reels, hold and spin kind of game. You seem to be building out your portfolio to have all the variety that the other suppliers have. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you're adding variety to your product lineup?
Yeah, no, great question. So I think from a portfolio standpoint, the variety comes with like what mechanics are you featuring? What is your three hooks of each theme? And then from games themselves, we're trying to give enough variety in a play experience, right? And so that's kind of, I talk about the magic happening, with Devil's Lock is really a very, very simple game with, you have cash and reels and then a wild that unlocks in the center reels. But what we did, in the last, handful of months and weeks actually in the game is to be able to kind of flip that presentation on its head, right? And provide a couple added elements of variety. And so with Xing Fu 888X, we actually took two interesting paths that's looking to replicate the success of Devil's Lock. And one was in kind of our feedback loops along the way is Xing Fu 888 had two main hooks and chases. And I think whenever you're making a game, if there's two kind of selling propositions and main pillars, they either complement each other or they fight each other. In this case, we thought they're fighting each other more than they were complementing each other. So one was a chase for the jackpots, the progressives, and the other one was a multiplier wheel. And so give team all the credit is that we decided to pull one out. And internally, and our players preferred the multipliers. So we took out the jackpot chase and really focused on the multipliers. But then we took it a step further and we actually replaced the jackpots with multipliers. So again, if you can see behind me, we have these multipliers that are presented in the same color, in the same position as jackpots, would have been. So talk about variety, right? In a bit of this kind of calculated risk or, kind of creativity within confines that we like to embrace, is we created a Foo Babies game with no jackpots. So, that's something that really isn't done because the Foo Babies have always been really associated with jackpots. So anyways, we really leaned into these multipliers and actually with having no jackpots, from our research, we think that of games that are released today, less than 10% don't even have jackpots in North America, right? So kind of leaned into this and then we're able to save, think about how much player contribution you can save on jackpots. Of course, you lose something. We're able to have this really cool engaging wheel that's, we're able to give better multipliers on this wheel as well.
And the multipliers apply to the cash on reel symbols.
Exactly right. So
The
it's not really a
accumulation.
hold on spin. Yeah, you got to collect 6 of them. So players are used to that. We have this little visual counter above the reels to kind of help tease out the wheel. You can sign it, you kind of see it above me there. Then when you get 6 of them, you spin the wheel, at least 6, and then you multiply those cash on reels by wheel values. And what makes this pretty interesting is because we stuck with the 8 motif, that created some challenges for our team, but I give them a ton of credit. They stuck with it. It was hard to keep that 888 as you see go by, but that is critical to the game because that's your, that's your legendary win. That's the whole, as a player, I'm probably not going to hit it, but there's a little part of you that's like, today's the day, so buying a lottery ticket. So, put it all together and we have a game that's very simple. 6 coins give you a wheel full of multipliers. Very simple. However, we added a bunch of depth that I'll probably talk about in a little bit on how we, hopefully gave players a reason to stick around and have enough kind of subtle variety while staying within those confines.
Mm-hmm. Well, even 88x is pretty substantial when you're adding 6 or more cash on reels together and then multiplying it.
Yeah.
888. I guess that would be about as frequent as a jackpot, right?
Exactly. It's not quite as equated, but think of the 888 as the grand, the 88 as the major, and down the line. Right, they're a little more. Right. The 888 is more like a maxi if you look at kind of jackpot nomenclature. But you're exactly right. It kind of represents the frequency and the feeling of jackpots without having.
And then the absence of the progressives allows you to throw everything into this coin cash on reels feature.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So now when we have this wheel spin, you'll notice there's 2x, there's 3x, there's 5x. You're not going to get a lot of 2x's, which we think, is what players are looking for, right? How frustrating is it to get a good feature, see all these big, especially multipliers, because multipliers, I think, connote a lot more than we realize with players. Their expectations go up a lot higher. And that's one thing we're trying to get a hold of is like, you can have a great design game and believe in it and go along your path. But because of the market and others, players a lot of times have expectations that you may not be fulfilling because of these dynamics you can't control. So yeah, in our case, we saved some contribution and we're able to have a nice wheel where you're going to get good multipliers and it's attainable. I mean, we went and played this. I mentioned our first play analysis. We all went out in the field to our launch partner, and within 20 minutes we hit the 88x, and we actually nudged into it, which is another part of what kind of makes this game exciting.
And there's no 1x, right, on the wheel?
That's a good point. No, there is no 1x.
Okay. All right, it's great. It's a good looking game. Looks like a great follow up and a good expansion of your product library. So congratulations on your success and your awards. I'm sure there's going to be more coming. And good luck at the coming Indian Gaming Trade Show.
Yeah.
And thanks for being with us today, Mike.
Yeah. I would say last thing, Frank, thanks for your time. I mean, we talk about this game, Xing Fu 888. We're obsessed with not being a one-hit wonder. So, when we have trade shows, when we have other events, like we are digging in and we are like focused more than ever with creating a whole library and portfolio of hits. And I'll just say with Xing Fu 888, it's out in the field. And we did a trial with our test partner, and they had 9 games. And it's doing so well, they ordered 10 more after 1 month. So we're excited about the early numbers, and hopefully you hear more and more about the whole team at Bluberi as we try to really grow responsibly and continue to put everything we have into making player-centric, player-friendly, and operator-friendly games going forward. So appreciate your support, your time, and look forward to more touch points going forward.
Thank you for joining us for the GGB Gaming Supplier Showcase, our exclusive look at the best products and services produced by vendors for the gaming, iGaming, and sports betting industries. For more information about the GGB Supplier Showcase, contact Terry Brady at tbrady@ggbmagazine.com.